So, like I mentioned today, we are talking about recovery 2.0. So, the what, why, and how of recovery. A couple of things we're going to be going over today are the benefits of recovery, what is mental versus physical recovery, physical recovery practices, mental recovery practices, some demonstrations, and then some time for questions. So I do want to give a little bit of background here before we dive in and give you a little bit more of my history. So I am a physical therapist. I'm a personal trainer. I'm a yoga instructor. I work with a lot of different types of people, ages, fitness levels, goals, and I often see a lot of people pushing themselves to their limits, which is fun sometimes, right? Whether it's mental performance or physical performance, it's really can be fun to push yourself and make yourself work harder. What I often see also is a lot of people not spending the time resting and recovering. This is something I'm really passionate about through my own personal experiences and my professional experiences is helping people learn to recover better so that they can therefore perform better, whether that be mentally at work, in a partnership, or physically with sports, athletics, or just being able to show up on in your daily life to the best of your abilities. So, let's talk about some of the benefits of recovering well before we dive into how to. So, when we recover, I'm going to use recover as this big overarching word to encompass a couple different things, and we'll pick that apart in just a moment. But when you're recovering, it's giving your body time to better itself at the end of the day. So, from a structural standpoint, muscles, ligaments, even bones, you're building and repairing muscles. You're repairing any structural damage. You're improving muscle strength. Every time you perform an exercise or perform a movement, it's changing the way your muscles in your body move. So, by resting and recovering, you're giving yourself that time to create those new connections, to create those new movements, to create those new habits. When you're repairing structural damage, that's not to say that every time we move, you're damaging yourself, but you're still creating changes in your body. So we're repairing those damages. And then on a kind of mental, neurological level, it's giving our brain the chance to create new neural connections, to improve concentration, improve memory, to foster new skills. By resting and recovering, we're giving our body the ability to integrate everything we've given to it mentally and physically. That's really how we learn. That's how we get better at things, is by trying new things, learning, and then integrating it within ourselves. And then something we're not going to talk as much about today, but it's important to touch on, is hormonal. On a hormonal level, when we recover and we let our body rest, we have better hormonal regulation necessary for daily functions and just the improved ebb and flow of hormones. A huge thing here that I'll often talk about is cortisol levels. When we're constantly stressed out, whether it's physical or mental, our cortisol levels can be really high for way longer than they need to be. And that can throw off our daily functions and throw off other hormones in our body and kind of just lead to some unpleasant internal experiences, for lack of a better word. Nothing bad or scary, but just saying that it can really affect our body on a structural, a neurological, and a hormonal level when we're not recovering well. So by recovering well, you can really address these three areas really nicely. So some performance benefits of recovery, because who doesn't want to improve themselves? From a mental side, increased resiliency. So the more you recover after a stressful situation, the better you're able to handle stress. You're able to handle more stress with less negative side effects, and you can decrease your mood swings. So whether you're looking for a higher level mental performance at your job or with your family, the more you spend time recovering, the more you're able to handle higher level stress and higher level challenges. You have improved mental performance, clarity, focus, concentration, motivation, all that stuff that we really need to apply ourselves to the best of our abilities. And then from a physical standpoint, you see a lot of improved fitness gains, muscle recovery, strength, ability to generate force, improved endurance. If you think about, the first time anyone ever tried to go out on a run, if you've ever tried to run or even for a long walk, the first time you might not be able to go as far, and then each subsequent time you can go a little bit farther. If you were trying to run 3 miles every day, you probably would never get up to 4 miles because you're not giving your body the time to rest and recover. And then a really important piece here is decreased injury risk. By improving your recovery habits and improving your ability to recover, you're better able to handle physical stress and adapt to the muscle capacity needed, which therefore decreases your risk of injury. So those are just some fun, quick tidbits as to why we were really focused on recovery and how it can really serve us long term. This is a quote that I really like: live less out of habit and more out of intent. And this is to just say that your recovery work doesn't need to be a certain thing every day, but living with the intention of serving your body to the best of your ability can go a really long way. And as we'll talk about later in this presentation, a little bit can go a long way in terms of recovery. So living with that intent of serving yourself to the best of your ability and not just going through the motions of what you think you might need to do or you should do or is the right thing to do, but really beginning to listen to your body and work with your body so that you can perform better day in and day out. And if anyone at any time needs a slide pulled up at the end, please just let me know and I can always bring it up at the end. So let's talk a little bit about mental recovery first. So what does it really mean to mentally recover? I want you all to sit for just a second and think, how often throughout your day are you thinking about work? How often in your day are you thinking about personal stressors? How often of the day are you just flat out thinking? Mental recovery is giving your mind a rest from your daily to-do list. It can be taking a break from work, creating some time to play. Mental recovery can be doing absolutely nothing, or what people deem as mindless activities. Even daydreaming can be a form of mental recovery. Another common term in literature is psychological rest. So giving your brain time to turn off. And by turning off, that doesn't mean you're not thinking at all. And we'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about meditation and mindfulness. But for mental recovery to happen, you don't need to be not thinking. You need to be resting or maybe creating more, exercising your creative muscles. I really like play, as silly as this might sound, as a way for mental recovery, because it's still doing something. It's still either moving your body or stretching your mind, for lack of a better word. But it's really a great form of mental recovery. And play can look something as simple as coloring, adult coloring books. It could be as simple as playing board games with your family members, listening to music. If you have children, playing with your children, playing with your pets, things like that. Play is one of my favorite ways for people to incorporate mental recovery into their days. So let's look at physical recovery. What is physical recovery? So things are looking a little bit different this time in the world, but how often do you move your body throughout the day? And how does your body feel on a daily basis? Is this something you check in with normally? There are really a couple different types of physical recovery. One is active. So that's performing specialized activities such as stretching, massage, and gentle movement to encourage the healing of muscle tissues and physical structures. I like to think of active recovery as bringing blood flow to the area and nourishing the parts of your body that need a little extra love. There's also passive recovery, and passive recovery is flat out doing nothing, complete and total rest to decrease the overall strain on your body. This might be sitting and watching a movie, reading a book. This is also where sleep falls into, what category sleep falls into. It's the time to rest. And we'll talk a lot about sleep in our upcoming slides. There's also modalities to promote physical recovery, whether that's massage, ice, heat, compression, hydration. Those are kind of outside sources that are going to aim to improve your physical recovery. So let's talk about some physical recovery practices. And then I'm going to show you a couple of videos actually with some of the specific practices. So physical recovery practices can look really different depending on the person and depending on the day. So some days, if you're feeling really tired, if your body needs an extra rest, that might be extra sleep. That might be complete and total rest, laying on the couch, really minimizing your movement. Other days, that might mean short walks. Short walks are one of my favorite ways to promote physical recovery, whether it's after a long workout or even a long day at the office, or even just a long day running after kids. Going on a really brief walk can do a lot of good for your body. It helps improve blood flow to your extremities, your legs and arms. It helps improve your lymphatic vessel flow, which is a really important way that our body detoxes itself. Excuse me, I'm trying to put two words in one. It's also really good for your mood and your muscles. So short walks are a really underrated way to physically recover and honestly, mentally recover. Other things you might look at that are common are yoga classes. Some yoga classes, though, aren't recovery classes. So if you're looking for a physical recovery practice, I would look more at like a slow flow class, a restorative class, a yin yoga class. And we'll talk about some specific yoga postures, so poses that are really restorative for the mind and body in just a moment. And if yoga isn't your thing, but you know you want to get moving a little bit, gentle stretching. That could be stretching out your hamstrings, your quads. That could be seated at your desk and just taking a little gentle twist in your chair, reaching your arms overhead and taking a big arm circle back. Other really important physical recovery practices is hydration. Our body cannot work to the best of our ability if we're dehydrated. So aiming for at least 8 to 10 glasses every couple of 10 glasses, 8 to 10 ounces, every couple hours is really important. Another huge piece here that is underrated is sleep. And I have a whole slide on sleep that we'll talk about, so I won't touch on that here. Other things that are not as common and maybe not as accessible at the moment, but are good to keep in mind. Massages, whether that be self-massage, which is something we'll talk about in a second. Infrared saunas are really great to help lymphatic flow and improve blood flow to the muscles. Hydrotherapy, so getting in water, whether that's like a hot tub situation or even just in water in general. Fueling with good nutrients is always going to help aid our physical recovery. And then compression garments or tools. Tools such as Normatec boots are a really common one. Compression garments can be really helpful. I will say with compression garments and tools that I would talk with your doctor first, depending on different health conditions or medication you're on, just to make sure that you're safe to use those. But those can really aid in blood flow to the area, improving lymphatic flow, all those really important things that help in physical recovery practices. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the slide, it does look different on every day. My goal for today is to give you a wide variety of ideas to use so that any given day you feel like you have an arsenal of physical recovery tools. So our next slide is really about how much should you do. With physical recovery especially, I truly believe that a little bit of something is better than a whole lot of nothing. That's like one of my favorite mantras. Start small. Maybe that's just a gentle morning stretch. Maybe that's a short walk after a long day of work, and you'll see the results. And then just keep going, trying one new thing after the other or adding a little bit more each time. So these are some of my favorite restorative stretches. So the one on the left, I'm kind of putting my arrow over it, it's called Supta Baddha Konasana, or recline bound angle. So you have the soles of your feet touching, your knees are out wide, and then you can either reach your arms up overhead, or you can bring one hand to your chest and one hand to your belly. If you have really tight hips, it would feel really nice to put a block or a pillow kind of underneath your knees right here where I'm pointing with my arrow. This is a pose where you can really relax fully into the earth, especially when you have the pillow supporting you under your knees. It's a great place to practice deep breaths. It's really a good release for the hips. And it's a pose frequently used at the end of yoga practices to calm the body back down, to slow the breath and slow movement. It's one of my personal favorites as well. The second picture right here in the chair is kind of a seated forward fold. This is a great one that's that you can use throughout your workday. So by pushing your chair back away from the table and putting your hands on your desk or table and just letting your chest kind of move towards your thighs can feel really nice on the upper and lower back. This is also a pose that you can hold for a couple of moments and really breathe deep here. You can also do this same pose on a wall. So kind of walk your hands down the wall and set your hips back. And do the same pose if you know you don't have a table nearby. It's kind of like a seated child's pose if anyone's done child's pose before. And this last picture on the right, it's not the best picture, but it's called legs up at the wall. So what you do, this person's on their couch. You can do it on your couch, on your bed, or on the floor. But you get your bum up really close to that surface and you let your legs come above your heart on the wall. It is called an easy inversion practice, and it is wonderful for restoration, physical and mental. There's actually research out there that shows that spending 15 minutes in a legs up at the wall pose is this equal to what it does to your body mentally and physically. It's equal to a 90-minute nap. That's how restorative it is. I highly recommend it. If I've had a long morning, but I know I need to be active in the evening, whether that's work or with family, I'll pop myself into a legs up at the wall pose and just breathe for a couple minutes. Sometimes I'll put on my favorite song and just stay there for the whole 3 or 4 minutes of the song and rest. It can be a little tricky to get into on the floor. It's actually kind of nice to do with your bum against a couch and your legs kind of draped over the couch. You can always bend your knees slightly too if there's any discomfort there. So then there's some self-massage tools that I wanted to show you. So I'm just going to take you to these videos. I'm not going to show you the whole video, but I'm going to show you some of the important parts of it. So self-massage is a really great way to aid in physical recovery. It brings blood flow to the area, it soothes sore muscles, and it really helps you get in tune with your body. So let's start with the lower leg here. It's going to bring us to YouTube. One might feel better than the other. I'm going to start off with this guy for our first one. So we're going to get into the front of the shin right here. So this is called your anterior tip. So what you're going to do is you're going to be rolling with one ball on either side of your tibia into these muscles here. So what does that look like? You're going to come onto your hands and knees, and you're going to start up at your knee. You're going to start just rolling forward and back, forward and back. You might stop at your knee for a second and bend and flex here. You might roll all the way down to your ankle and just rest there. Sitting here. A couple of different things you can do. These do eat mats, so be careful. You can just hold. So sit in a kneeling position and just breathe here. It might also feel nice to kind of rock back and rock forward. Depending. Beautiful. So that is just one example for the lower leg there. I'm going to show you one for the upper back. Give it a second to load. So you can use a foam roller for this or yoga tuna balls. I like the bigger ones here just because they feel best in my body. I also recommend you putting your hair up if you have longer hair. I'm going to skip this because these balls will kind of eat the hair a little bit. So I'm just going to throw mine. What we're going to do is lay on your back. And you're going to take one ball on either side of your spine. It might take a second to set yourself up here. Hands will cradle your head, knees bent, feet flat. And a little core engagement to protect your low back. You're going to start with just rolling up and down your spine, getting into the muscles on either side of your spinal column. You can go as far down as you feel comfortable. For these, I like to go to about my ribs, just because that's where I have control, and all the way up to the tops of your upper traps. So that is another brief example. And then last but not least, I'll show you a little bit of glutes before we get onto something a little bit different. So these are just some quick examples. Welcome back to the wall. I'm going to use one ball for this. You can use two, you can use the foam roller, but I personally really like how one ball feels here, so I'll show you that. Left knee bent and my right leg out straight. My right leg is going to stay on the floor for now, and I'm just going to lift my butt up and scooch this under here. I'm using my left foot both my arms and kind of my right knee to just explore. I like to start with circles and kind of get an idea of what's going on here. Then you can kind of go up and down over that more tense area. If you find a spot, you might close your eyes and breathe. And then you can go from the middle of your body, so kind of by your tailbone, all the way to the outer hip and back in. Just like so. Making circles as you get into this outer hip. Beautiful. So we'll head back into the presentation and keep on going. So, sleep. Sleep is super, super important for physical and mental recovery. Adequate sleep helps to improve your mental and physical performance. It allows your muscle tissues to replenish needed nutrients and mend damaged tissues. And if you don't get enough sleep, you will see decline in cognitive and motor performance. So motor is the ability to move your body. You'll see a decline in your reaction times and a decline in your mood state, emotional stability. So we really want to make sure we're getting adequate sleep. So the what really here? Quality is important versus quantity. So I'd rather you get 7 really good hours of sleep versus 12 not so great hours of sleep. The recommendation is about 7 to 10 hours a night, and I find that it really is person dependent and it's really lifestyle dependent. So it really depends on what you're doing in your days, how much sleep you need. There is no perfect number like 6.25 or 7.75 hours. It's really dependent on how much rest in your sleep you get. So REM sleep and deep sleep you get. And that is really dependent on what's going on in the rest of your life. Sleep is a very complicated, can be a very complicated thing, but it's also a really easy thing to tweak. So when I talk with people about sleep and improving their recovery, I talk about how to improve their quality of sleep. So the main thing is really creating evening routines and rituals to signal your body to sleep. So whether that's a cup of tea, whether that's reading a book, whether that's dimming the lights, but those little tools will tell your body kind of where it needs to go. Things such as decreasing time on devices for bed. So whether that is not using your phone 2 hours before bed or not using your computer. Things like blue blocking glasses can always also be helpful here. Another really important thing for quality of sleep is kind of falling asleep and waking up at the same time each night and morning. So keeping a really consistent sleeping schedule, whether that's going to bed at a certain time and waking up at a certain time, really helps improve your quality of sleep. Last but not least, having an optimal sleep environment. So the kind of gold standard is 68 degrees, but I find a cooler room is really important for a good quality sleep. Having complete darkness and making sure it's quiet. Even in the city, I know that it's hard to have complete and total quiet, but just having the best experience as possible here. So your mind and body tell you what it needs if only we would listen. So with everything in recovery, we want to make sure we're listening to our body to the best of our abilities. So listening is really going to help us tune inward and know how we need to recover. Let's talk a little bit about mental recovery. Mental recovery is just as important, if not more important, than physical recovery, especially with how many devices we have, how hard everyone's working, taking care of their family, even just answering emails, working, wherever you are in your life span. We are getting mentally burnt out when we're under a lot of stress. So things like meditation, playing, once again, coming back, spending time in nature, expressing creativity. So that's one where I talked about earlier, adult coloring books. I really got into making bracelets for fun the other day because I just need another creative outlet. Might be gardening. Spending time in nature is really great for your mental health. Short walks are coming up again. So if there's one thing you take away from today's presentation, it's go on a short walk every day. Go around the block. It's really good for your mental and physical recovery. Listening to music can also help you recover mentally. So if there's that favorite song of yours that really helps you jam out, that is going to be really helpful for your mental recovery. Kind of in line with listening to music is dance parties. I ever have a day where you're just not having the best day, you feel burnt out mentally, you feel burnt out physically, my biggest piece of advice would be throw on your favorite music, close your eyes, and literally dance like no one's watching. Switch your energy up. like that. Another great thing for improving mental performance and mental recovery is breaking your day into 90-minute blocks. Research shows over time that we are most creative and productive in 90-minute blocks. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. And then another thing that can be helpful if you've had a really long day is napping or doing that Viparita Karani, the legs up at the wall pose that I showed previously, can be really great for improving your mental recovery as well as physical recovery. So mental recovery really is all about picking something that works best for you and that helps you best rest your brain. That sounds really daunting, I know, but being able to pick something that works for you. So for some people, that also might be fiction reading. And that might be just staring at and watching the world go by from your front porch. Sometimes for me, mental recovery is just watching the sunset. There's no really right or wrong. There's a lot of different things you can play with, but the important piece is you're giving yourself time to not do anything that's on your to-do list, work or personal. So a couple more specifics here that I want to dive into. 90-minute blocks. 90 minutes seems to be the limit of human productivity and creation. So creating a workflow or a home flow that is 90-minute blocks will give your brain time to rest. So that might mean, picking a time and it doesn't mean you have to do 90 minutes and then you're done. It's 90 minutes and then taking a rest to maybe go for a short walk, maybe grab a cup of tea, maybe take a couple of deep breaths outside, whatever that looks like to you. And I know right now things are really different in everyone's personal and work lives. So it might just be like working on one thing, whether it's with your kids or your household for 90 minutes and then switching things up. So whether that's, going from work to cleaning, whether that's from taking care of children to lunch, just switching things up every 90 minutes can be really important for our mental recovery. Mother Nature. There is so many benefits to being outdoors. And I know if you're in the city, it can be really hard, especially now with our limits. But something as simple as opening the window and getting a couple of breaths of fresh air or growing a little succulent garden in your windowsill can be really helpful. Being outdoors can improve mood, alleviates work stress, and improves sleep. One study stated that it helps people leave stress behind and focus on simpler, more refreshing thoughts. This is also another reason I love short walks. Taking a moment to get outside, even in the city with the proper safety measures, can be really helpful for your mental and physical health. And then meditation. Meditation comes in all shapes and sizes, and there's really not one right way or wrong way. The biggest piece of meditation that I like to focus on is being able to turn your focus inward on the sensations in your body and letting your mind fully rest while doing so. There are probably hundreds of different types of meditations out there. And if you have any specific questions on types at the end, please feel free to ask. But a meditation practice in general is going to serve your mental recovery. It's going to improve your mental performance, and improve your mood, and improve your physical health. So I know we're coming up right on our time for questions, but I want to take everyone through a brief 5 senses meditation. It should take about 3 or 4 minutes. If you don't want to participate, you don't have to, but I'm going to take everyone through the meditation and then leave some time for questions at the end. So this is one of my favorite, really simple meditations that you can take yourself through. When you're ready, just get your feet firmly planted on the ground and begin to close your eyes. If you want to lay down, lay down. If you want to stay seated, stay seated. And just start to breathe. Inhaling and exhaling. Full breaths in and full breaths out. And when you're ready, just beginning to notice anything you may hear around you. It might be the sound of my voice. It might be family members or roommates in other rooms. It might be the wind coming in through your window or the birds chirping outside. Notice what you hear and how it makes you feel. And then bring your awareness to your sense of touch. What part of your body is touching the surface beneath you, whether it's the floor or a chair? Where are your clothes touching your body? Where's your hair touching your body? Notice how things feel on your skin. Notice how they make you feel. Notice what they bring up. And then bring your awareness to your sense of taste. Maybe you just had a big sip of coffee or tea. Maybe you just had a snack for lunch. What do you taste? What images does it bring to your mind? What does it make you feel? What emotion do you feel? And then bringing your awareness to your sense of scent, smell. Take a big breath in, fill up, and exhale, let it go. Notice the different scents that come across your nose. Maybe it's your shampoo or any food you might have cooked. Maybe it's the coffee in front of you or your perfume. Soak it in, savoring each scent that comes across your space. And then last but not least, bring your awareness to your sense of sight. Maybe you keep your eyes closed and you watch the colors dancing on your eyelids. Or maybe you flutter your eyes open and you look at everything around you. Notice the colors, the textures, the shapes. Does your space make you feel good? And then taking one last brief moment here to just notice all the different sensations in your body. Notice what is closer and farther away. Notice what is intense or subtle. And take it all in, focusing on these sensations for 2 more big inhales and long exhales. Inhaling to fill and exhale, let it go. And when you're ready, just flutter your eyes open. Get yourself situated. And in a moment or two, I'm going to take some questions.